Interacting with and caring for snakes and other reptiles has noticeable therapeutic effects on all types of people. But lately, I've been thinking a lot about their positive impacts specifically on people with neurodivergent conditions. I've witnessed some beautiful reactions to snakes by kids with neurodiversity on animal therapy visits, but I've also noticed that the reptile keeping community itself has a fair amount of people with neurodiverse brains as well. So, why is it that those of us with ADHD, autism, and other atypical minds are drawn to these animals and this hobby in particular? Let's slither on into it and find out. Speaking for myself, working with and keeping snakes soothes and provides outlets for several aspects of my ADHD. It can be hard for me to remain present in the moment sometimes, and snakes have a tendency to help my brain stay in one place. I've spoken about that a lot on this channel in terms of how they encourage mindfulness, their beauty, the way they move, the feeling of their bodies against skin, and even just the practice of caring for them can help to quiet the noise in my head, calm me, and hold my attention. On the other hand, the rabbit holes I go down doing research and husbandry development for my snakes, not to mention this channel, provide me with a positive outlet for hyperfocus. In case you're not familiar with the term, although it's a common assumption that ADHD just makes people distracted and unable to focus on one thing, some ADHDers also have a propensity to hyperfocus on a task, hobby, or interest, so much so that they can't shift their attention away from it, which can be great for productivity in some ways, but can also lead to procrastination of other priorities, even things like eating, drinking, and sleeping. I definitely have this predisposition, and I've found that without a healthy thing to hyper-focus on, I can end up ping-ponging around the millions of things in my head so much that I get nothing done. When that happens, it can lead to episodes of depression or anxiety. So for me, snakes and the reptile community have actually provided quite the constructive outlet for those aspects of my neurodivergence. I can go too far with it, but it's better than plenty of other alternatives. Overall, it's been extremely positive for me and has led to an increase in self-esteem and even social relationships. I've always struggled with those in one way or another because I can get really overwhelmed when engaging with people, even those I truly care for. But snakes, they don't actively demand attention, reciprocation, nor do they require me to pretend to be anything but myself. They captivate me without triggering me, which actually makes me want to give them as much of my attention as I possibly can. And although my in-person social engagement is probably at its lowest thus far in my life, the work I've been doing through this channel and in interacting with the reptile community has actually increased the amount of direct communication I've had with people 100-fold. I was not usually one to talk to strangers, but I found that the premise of a shared passion for these animals has had me not just talking to strangers through YouTube episodes, but reaching out directly and consistently to people I might never would have otherwise. I can speak from my own experience, but it's the diversity of perspectives about this topic that really interests me. I don't want to speak for anyone else. I want to hear from others who can relate. I know I'm not alone in reflecting on this concept. So, I've actually created an anonymous survey to gather some basic data about how people in the reptile hobby identify within the vast spectrum of neurodiversity, what and how many reptiles they keep, and I've included some basic questions about what it is that draws them to reptiles in particular. I also hope to interview people in more depth about this for a series of episodes that'll air on the channel. We're all different, and there's such beauty in our uniqueness. And I also think that if this subject were explored and shared more extensively, it could have some positive ripple effects on public opinion about reptiles in general. Not to mention, give the neurodivergent community an opportunity to share more about themselves and to remind the world that different is not less. Again, this survey is completely anonymous and will only collect data that you're willing to give. But it does allow you to indicate if you're interested in sharing your experience with me in more depth. If you are, We can set up a call or even just email or text exchange with no obligation beyond discourse unless you decide you want to be in an episode. So if you resonate with anything I've said today and are at all interested in participating, you'll find the survey link in the description below, and feel free to share it with others who you think might be interested. I, for one, am really excited to see what comes of it. I'm Shira, and this is Galadriel, and we'll see you next time for more snake therapy.